to talk to figure out how you do that properly. But if we word it right, it might clear up this, that it's the investor's responsibility to pay for the housing counseling. So the servicer would bill the investor for counseling just like they would bill for other activities that they do on the loans. So that was pretty good. One of the things that we've been arguing with FHFA in the securitization platform, another idea, is that it should say in all the PSAs and all the pooling and servicing agreements for servicing mortgages that that all the loss mitigation tools should be available for every borrower. So you no longer can say that you're not going to do principal reductions, or you can no longer say that you won't do interest rate reductions. Remember how many, like 15% of our deals were negatively impacted by those PSA rules in the early days. So hopefully we could put that one to rest and build that in as well. Yeah, well, good. Well, thank you both so much. I mean, these folks have been fighting your fight, so round of applause to you. And if there's others that are interested in doing these meetings and can come to DC, please let me know. These were kind of high-value, high-content meetings, and we'll do more of them. This is the first round.
And we actually have a question from Stephanie Struble. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, so I'm going to take her off mute. And Stephanie, do you have a question?
Well, I do have a question. I wasn't here. I've been out of the office, and I'm back in, and I was just going through, and I was looking at the housing counseling in the IRC 501Q. And I guess my question is, those are recent developments, but when has this gone into effect?
So it's in effect. It's actually, they're enforcing the current regulation. So this has been around for several years. What's different about 501Q is that it was originally applied to debt management companies and credit counseling services, but IRS has interpreted it more broadly, and basically their interpretation includes all housing counseling agencies. So. Okay.
So
well, let me add one more sentence to this. So we thought there was going to be a set of questionnaires that were going to be distributed to 200 some odd groups. We haven't heard about anybody getting one yet, so we don't know where that's at. So go ahead for your question.
So for us right now, we're a 501c14, and we also have another one that's a 501c3. But is it me? So I guess I'm questioning. Even though we're certified through NTI and we're certified through CUNIT and we are a HUD-certified credit counseling agency,
yeah,
but we have to change our filing.
Are they telling you that?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm trying to figure out.
So I'm not an attorney. This is more specific organizational legal question that you should orient towards them, but. I wouldn't make that assumption off the top of the head, and certainly I haven't heard anything about that. But I'm not at all familiar with the 50114. For anybody, we do record these sessions, and they're on our website, and the one on the 501Q, where we're talking with Brian Schneider from the NFCC, that's in the library, so you can listen to it. But it doesn't answer your question, just to be specific. That's a pretty detailed question that I don't think we'd be able to answer.
Okay. That's all I have then.
Well, good. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So, let's see. So let me move on quickly here because we only have a few more minutes left. So one of the issues that we have that has been critical for that has been a critical issue has been measuring the performance of housing counseling, and does it really work? And we've talked in the call recently about the new NeighborWorks study, which I think is really a step above what other studies have been available. That's great. It shows the 30% lower delinquency rate for NeighborWorks counseled loans. But a more systemic resolution to this would be if there's a tracking number that tracks the counseling through the life of the loan. And we've talked about this idea in the past, and it looks like we've made some inroads here, and thanks to the meetings that we recently had with FHA and FHFA, we think we may have a plan for how to get this implemented. And there's many positives to this. So one is that you could track performance and show how housing counseling works. You could learn what models work better than others and sort of mix and match, figure out how to improve the work we do. But another one, which actually Simone actually talked about in these past meetings, was the idea that you could track, if you have written authorization with your client, and the client becomes delinquent, your agency could be notified of any delinquencies, and you could do an early intervention. And I know a few groups have done this in the past and have had great success at it. This would be institutionalized in the mortgage structure of the industry. So there's something called MISMO, and it's the Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization. It's actually done by the MBA, the Mortgage Banking Association, and it's Mortgage Banker Association, and it's and MISMO, it's a voluntary system. It's basically a data dictionary where they are defining and then can use as information for tracking all kinds of things, underwriting standards, pricing, and then we wanted and actually have in place that housing counseling would be tracked in that as well. And so the good thing about that is that it would be industry-wide and it would be a broad recognition. There are two problems that we have to work out. So, nothing comes as a slam dunk. The first one is that the system is entirely voluntary. So currently, as far as we can tell, Fannie and Freddie aren't using it. FHA is not using it. We don't know who is using it, but we're not aware of any tracking that's actually using these categories. But talking to FHFA, they're the vehicle to get Fannie and Freddie to do it. There was a lot of enthusiasm from the FHFA people for doing it. Had the same conversation with Carol Galante and Sarah Jarick at FHA. They were very interested in it. The second issue is we need a champion in the industry who can advocate for us in the MISMO system. And partly we want to figure out what the appropriate data fields are to use. There are some data fields in there, but you can tell they were designed in the 90s, so there's nothing for online counseling. They ask if you're participating in a program that's now defunct, and so things that need to be shaped a little bit. So we're going to have a team of people who, from various agencies, and we'll hopefully have HUD and FHFA participate. So we're going to figure out the data fields that work that would be the most useful for us. And we are going to hopefully have our champions make it so it's no longer voluntary, but it's built in. And that would be a big advance for us in the industry and mainstreaming our work. So if you love data fields and getting into the weeds, please email me now so that we can get you into this committee, because we're going to have to figure this out for us and how to make it represent the industry. Okay. So the next one is on building relations with local lenders. And we really mentioned this in the conversation with Valkyria and with Simone. So the OCC Community Affairs people are a good way to get relationships with banks, not just the big national banks that you're most familiar with, but some of the smaller national banks. And we'll try to encourage some kinds of local meetings. And as they develop, we'll let you know what the opportunities are, and hopefully your agency wants to participate. The FDIC has the Alliance on Economic Inclusion, which is a very similar kind of program that they're doing as well. The FDIC regulates credit unions and small banks, and so that would be a different population, but again, institutions that don't have relationships necessarily with counseling agencies, and would be a way of getting funding and hopefully some new programs as well for you. So we'll explore both those avenues. Hopefully we'll make some progress in that field. So another issue that we have talked about in the past has been on this issue of widows and orphans, or what we're calling surviving occupants. And widows, and the idea is that it's if somebody has died and they were the mortgage holder, their name was on the mortgage, and the people remaining in the household were not on the mortgage, that they then, when they need a loan modification, weren't able to get it, even though they were married to the mortgage holder or they were the descendants of the mortgage holder. So Matthew, do you want to just kind of give an overview of this and what we've learned about Fannie and Freddie, which we learned actually in the FHFA meeting?
Yeah, so somehow this happened pretty quietly, but it was towards the end of February that Fannie and Freddie separately released what they're called clarifications of their policies. So the policies didn't change, but I guess they saw some confusion in the field with servicers, or saw that there was an issue going on, and so they released these clarifications of what their policies are. They're both short, and let me see. Okay, there are links to the Fannie and Freddie guidances there. They're both just a single page, but the bottom line kind of issues are, first, one point it deals with is communicating with the new property owner. Basically, servicers are required to implement policies and procedures to identify and communicate with the new property owner. So they have to, once they become aware that the borrower is deceased, they need to seek out the new property owner. And it includes they need to also have policies and procedures that allow the new owner to continue making mortgage payments and to pursue an assumption of the mortgage and or foreclosure prevention alternatives. So that's an important point, that they're required to have policies in place that will allow the new owner to seek a modification. And then with the issue often comes up in the circumstance where the loan is delinquent. If the mortgage loan is delinquent and the new owner is unable to bring the mortgage loan current, but may be able to, if there were a modification, then they're required to collect what they call a borrower response package from the new owner and evaluate it as if it were from the borrower. So that's, again, it's always been the case, but they released this, sent it out to all the servicers, so the servicers should be aware of this now.
Good, and we'll also send these links out for you to the leaders list so that you can look at them yourself. And the bottom line here is that the way it would work mechanically, if it's working, is that Fannie on Fannie and Freddie loans, where you have a surviving occupant, the process would be they would be examined if they could assume the mortgage, and if they qualified for that, then the loan would be modified, but the review would be on the assumption if a modification went through, so that they're being fairly evaluated on this. Now, here's the big question. So when this came up in the meeting, we quickly looked at each other because there were about a dozen counseling agencies represented in the room, and none of us knew about this. So the question is in fact this being done? So it was implemented as a rule end of February, and what we're interested in figuring out is if you are, we're going to do a poll, and if you are working with anybody who's a surviving occupant, so the children or a spouse, or someone that fits into that category, and if so the question is if you're the pool of people who we're asking this question of, and if it has happened, have they been able to assume the mortgage and get a modification? And even if it's only on one case and you haven't gotten them on all, we're just interested if this in fact is being done out in the field. So it would have to be sometime in the end of February, March, April, up through the present. But if it's happened to you, yes. But if it hasn't happened to your clients that you have in that case, vote no.
We've had people are still weighing in slowly, so maybe we'll give it another 10 or 15 seconds.
Right.
So far, it's a unanimous no.
Okay, so we're going to tell FHFA what the results of this is.
All right. Well, it's slowing, but there's still people weighing in.
Okay. Good. Well, this is the kind of useful stuff that allows us to go to the policymakers and say, hey, it's not working. I get that. A program with Fannie and Freddie that's not working. Well, Oh, we got somebody, though. We got somebody who had a success story. That's good. How many people actually responded?
It was about 36.
So we've got a couple people. Okay, great. Well, this is very helpful. This is exactly what we needed to know. We will tell FHFA exactly what you said. We may reach out to the person with a success story and learn more about it. That may be helpful, and if we can learn anything from it, we will pass it on as well. Okay. The other great piece of news is that many of you participated in the servicing standards study that we did in February, March, and early April. And we put it together in a very nice formal study. Liz and Matthew really worked on this on our staff. And so it's got graphs and charts, but it totally represents what your response was. It's really a national survey. The news is kind of overwhelmingly difficult, that dual track continues, that the deadlines are not being met under the National Mortgage Servicing Settlement for response times, that we're continuing to see violations of what we think of as fair lending standards in terms of language access, that the single point of contact system is not nearly as useful as they've described, and it's not working the way it should. There's lots of good data in this. You can use this in funding proposals or talking with lenders if you're involved in any of these. Who all have we distributed this to, Matthew? Oh, you may
On the congressional side?
Yeah, right.
All of the folks that we met with from the THUD committee, Representative Gutierrez, who's had an interest and been supportive of housing counseling, Senator Menendez, and then a bunch of people on the House and Senate side.
Yeah, and we got it out to, we put it out on the leaders list. I think we circulated it to the intermediaries. We circulated it to housing advocates, to the American Finance Reform. I think it'll show up on some blogs. We distributed it to policymakers. So it's gotten some wide circulation. In June, this month, we're expecting that, and actually we sent it to Joe Smith and to Josh Stein at OMSO, the Office of Mortgage Settlement Oversight. We sent it to a number of the key attorneys general who negotiated the deal. So we got it out. The Joe Smith and OMSO are going to put out their own report on performance standards, which we think is going to be pretty critical here, and we're hoping this report will nudge them to being tougher on enforcement on these pretty critical issues. So thanks for all your good work here. Filling out these surveys are really, really helpful. So the survey that's open right now is on, and we'll send the link out again after the call, is the one on requiring or incentivizing housing counseling that we're doing for HUD. So we've had a crammed agenda. We covered it all. Thank you very much for your good work. Let us know if you want to participate in the MIMSO program. Please feel free to use our website, which is filled with lots of good resources. All our studies are listed there as well, and there's schedule for trainings. We're posting jobs, so if you're looking to hiring housing counselors, we're putting job postings up on that. Interested in growing on it. We do want to encourage everybody to join the National Housing Resource Center as an organization. We are, part of our work is going to be funded by membership dues. We really need to grow this organization. So, really you join because you want to really push the struggle forward for getting housing counseling to be elevated and mainstreamed. We'll do a lot more in the next few months around those questions. But there are also discounts on credit reports, on office supplies, and some fundraising tools and things like that. And it's the right thing to do. Have a great week, folks, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks at the next leadership call. Thank you so much. Bye.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.